listening to your brain on air. The program will begin shortly. Enjoy. Stai ascoltando il tuo cervello in aria. Il programma inizierà a breve. Godere.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to Your Brain on Air. I am your host, Ollie Vogt Larson, and representative for Colorado's 4th District, Lauren Opal Boebert, in case you didn't know that was her middle name. Her son is in some hot water, you could say. He's in a bit of a Chris Hansen situation. Ooh, that gives me an excuse to talk about the movie that's coming out. A24 is making a movie about Chris Hansen. We'll talk about it later in this episode, but this is a certified hood classic.
This is a certified hood classic.
Guys, this is awesome. Ladies and gentlemen, son of Representative Lauren Opal Boebert, representative for 4th District of Colorado, Tyler Boebert. He's got some problems, you could say. He was arrested on charges of sexual exploitation of a child. Authorities are saying Monday, Tyler Boebert, 21 years old, was taken into custody Sunday and later released on a $10,000 bond. The Garfield County Sheriff's Office said in a statement, Tyler Boebert did not immediately respond to the request for comment. Quote, "I love my son," Lauren Boebert said in a statement Monday. Quote, "We take the allegations very seriously and pray for everyone affected during this challenging time." Yeah, the person that was affected. That's a great way of saying, I'm really sorry that my spawn raped your kid. That sucks, you know what I mean? It was not immediately clear whether Tyler Boebert has a lawyer to speak on his behalf. An attorney who previously represented him in a separate case did not immediately respond. This kid's 21 and he already has a separate case where he's had an attorney? My goodness. Okay, they did not immediately respond to a request for comment. The charges are linked to a 2024 video of Tyler Boebert allegedly recording a 17-year-old. According to an affidavit in support of the arrest warrant, he was 18 at the time, and the 17-year-old's mother later alerted authorities that the video showing her daughter and Tyler Boebert having sex was posted on Instagram. Jesus Christ. Well, that's going to get you for sure. The affidavit says the affidavit also does not say who the alleged video was posted by. Tyler was charged with 3 counts of sexual exploitation of a child and 2 counts of contributing to the delinquency of a minor. Yes, that's another charge. I completely forgot that's another thing you can get. Court records are showing he previously was arrested on charges police described as a string of vehicle trespass and property thefts. The case also continues. According to the Colorado Public Radio, after her son was arrested in 2024, Lauren Boebert said he had been through, quote, some very difficult public challenges for a young man. Yeah, of his own volition. And the subject of attention, she didn't say of his own volition. I added that in. I should have made it clear that we were exiting the quote. Now we are re-entering the quote. And the subject of attention that he didn't ask for. Well, you tend to get that when you're, a nuisance to the community or a danger to it. You know what I mean? That tends to get you some attention. It breaks my heart to see my child struggling and in this situation, especially when he has been provided multiple opportunities to get his life back on track. That doesn't make it sound any better for him. You make it sound like he's a fuck up. She said, "I will never give up on him and I will continue to be there for him." Listen, what a sweet mom, but honestly, like that, you're a representative for a state. You've got quite a delinquent for a son. That says quite a bit probably about your family life. I'm sorry to say it. I know many people, we can't say that the families can be held responsible for the crimes that the members of the family commit. In general, though, you can kind of get a feel for whether or not a household has permissibility on certain things. I'm just going to be honest with you, from the nature that you're hearing about this case. I'm not saying that Lauren Boebert is an Epstein, junior or anything like that. I'm saying that, she's clearly, I don't know if it's their lifestyle that they've taught him. I don't know if it's the culture that he grew up in. It's very much, and I'm not trying to come for white people's culture. There is a weird thing about white people being incestuous, but that's not the topic of today. That's a topic for another day. It is true. It's kind of like a weird white people thing, like you're kissing your kids on the lips. That's a white people issue. Knock that shit off. I'm being honest. I'm sick. Ugh. You gotta get a lock on that shit. I'm honest. I'm tired of seeing those documentaries where people go out in the woods of Kentucky and find people whose eyes go in different directions, and it's like, yeah, but this is because everybody's like, you know what I mean? You start to lose track of who's related to who out here after a while. That's worrisome, and it's a white people thing. Gaza, you know what? We're gonna go. I didn't mean to say Gaza. I meant to say God, but we're gonna go real quick down this rabbit hole because this was embarrassing. The state of Minnesota should have been nuked because of this video. All right, here it is. 14 years ago. Warning, nasty Pep Fest kissing Rosemount High School higher quality video. This video went viral. I remember I was like a teenager when this shit went viral, and I was shocked that this was happening in a Minnesota school. But then again, I remembered, oh shit, white people shit. Like, there's a weird kind of permissibility where it's like they'll make jokes, or they'll have like these little bits and whatnot where it's like, oh, the kiss lasts a little too long. Oh, then like mom's hands trailed or some shit. It's weird. It's so bizarre. And if you do not believe me, this video is linked in the description. It's 58 seconds. It's not going to take up much of your time. And you're going to experience peak white people when they're left alone up in the state of Minnesota for too long. They get wacky, my guys. They are so bizarre. Here we go. I don't want to get copyrighted because this has At a recent RHS, that song. At a recent RHS Pep Fest, select winter captains received a kiss from a special someone. Little did they know it was from their parents. So here's a blonde girl getting kissed by her dad. There's another blonde girl getting kissed by her dad. There's a tall, like, football-style guy getting kissed by his little, like, 5-foot-something mom in a nice white sweater. There's Jesus Christ. This is foul, man. Oh my God, what is the mom doing? She's, like, reaching into her back pocket. She trying to grab a Trojan? Here we go. They got one guy, he's in a Rosemount kind of like Letterman, not a jacket, but like what is the nylon zip ups, you know what I mean? And they have the school colors and normally the school name on the front. That's what he's wearing, and he's talking into a microphone that some fucking checker, you know how all like principals and teachers at Midwest schools, especially Minnesota, they wear the checker, you know what I mean, flannels and all that. He's got and they all wear jeans because it's fucking Minnesota. Half of these people are in 4-H. If not more. You can guarantee it. It's factual. So he's got a blindfold on. All these people were kissing their parents with a blindfold on, and they had to guess as to who they thought they were kissing. This is like HPV, guys. This is like, seriously, like, how is this being permissible? How is this permitted? I understand they're going like, well, it's just their mom kissing them. Some people, you know what I mean? Their mothers contract something, and then they shouldn't probably kiss their kids on the lips for as long as, if they was like 10 seconds. Like, if you watch this video, it's vomit inducing. But this is, by the way, this is like white culture. This is like when some people say like, yeah, we have Shakespeare, we have all of the good, the literature, we have Mozart, we have the founding fathers, but you also have like incest, low key. Like when I think of when you ask me to picture criminals, I do unfortunately picture people of a certain race. When you ask me to picture a pedophile, I unfortunately picture like this balding white guy. And if you ask me to picture somebody who's stealing shoes from a Foot Locker, I picture somebody. They had luscious lips. Look at how everybody's they are enjoying themselves way too much. They're clapping. And then they take off the blindfold, and then he like throws it on the ground, clearly defeated, and then they play Girl Look at That Body while his mom she saunters over to him. They're fucking tonight. This is sick. You need to be arrested. Embarrassing, right? Yes, dude. Honestly, all of these people should CPS the whole goddamn school. I'm saying that like all the staff have them investigated, pull their hard drives. I'm just gonna be honest with you. All of them need to be Chris Hansen. They all are like, what did you think you were doing tonight? What did you think when you were coming to kiss your child? You know what I mean? How could you agree to this? Didn't you realize this was gonna make your child an embarrassment? And then get people to cry on camera. Get them to feel bad. Get them to feel like shit. It's what they deserve, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sick. I don't even know what to say. It's foul, but like the only way to get this back on track is to actually start with the story that we started with.
Representative Lauren Boebert's son is back in legal trouble. This time he's been arrested on multiple felony charges tied to the alleged exploitation of a child. 21-year-old Tyler Boebert was arrested Sunday in Colorado, with court records listing the alleged offense date as January 1st, 2024.
Whew.
Tyler faces 3 sexual exploitation charges, including allegations involving inducement or enticement, possession with intent and video, along with 2 counts of contributing to the delinquency of a minor. Representative Boebert tells TMZ, "I love my son. We take these allegations very seriously and pray for everyone affected during this challenging time." He is said to have posted a $10,000 bond and was released the same day. His next court appearance is scheduled for August 19th.
Can I be so low-key, though? I'm perfectly fine with the idea of a mother going, yeah, I'm good. Yeah, you asked me if I love my son. I'm not going to be visiting him anytime soon, you know what I mean? He's got grandkids that I've been sacked with now. I don't know if this guy's got kids, but a lot of people that do go to... You watch To Catch a Predator, a lot of these people are fathers, unfortunately. A lot of fathers, they harbor that dark sickness in their mind where they're... And a lot of these people, they were like... I saw the Army veteran episode, I think it was Ernest Timmons or something yesterday, and he brought a camera. He was like... The moment that he got through the door, he was like, can we just go upstairs real quick? And she was like, oh, can we just like sit here? We like have some cookies for a second? And he was like, okay, but like I really got to get going here pretty soon. And this guy was he worked on planes. He was in not the Navy, the Air Force. You know what? It's just these people hide in plain sight. They're able to blend in like chameleons and whatnot. They're able to service the community. Some of these people are police officers. A lot, unfortunately, like a lot of these people, because they're also Freemasons and they engage in the rituals that require them to essentially be pedophiles. But that's another story, later time, later date. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to congratulate after all of this, this bull honky to start the day, Lauren Boebert, why'd you have to bring such a negative energy to Tuesday? I feel like I got to do something to bring up the vibe again? Here we go. Let's try a soundtrack switch up. Soundtrack switch up. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to congratulate Brad Pitt. He has revealed that he is drinking again after 7 years of sobriety. Congratulations on hopping off that wagon.
Brad Pitt revealing
Who
he is
needs
no
it?
longer sober after 7 years. In an interview with Esquire magazine, he talked about his drinking, saying, "I got back off the wagon." He's previously shared he joined a 12-step program after his public split from Angelina
Those
Jolie.
never work.
He now says he drinks alcohol, in his words, in a more restrained manner, maybe a glass or two of wine here and there.
Here and there. That's every other day, by the way. That's like every other day. Okay, I think that we got the point with the music. I think the mood is up. I feel like the energy is back, you know what I mean? And we need a lot of energy because we got to tackle a lot today. Unfortunately, it's voting day, primary day, ladies and gentlemen. Voters across Minnesota are heading to the polls today for the state's primary election. So this is setting the stage. We are the roadies at ACDACA, as the Australians call them, ACDC. We are, plugging in the amps. We are running the chords. We are, bringing out the guitars, doing all that shit. And we are getting ready. We are setting the stage for the high stakes battle of the governor's office this fall. We got a bunch of elections happening because obviously it's the midterms, but the governor's race is the primary one that we're focusing on. We have the incumbent governor, Tim Walz, stepping down after two solid, then pretty rough, a solid start, pretty rough finish. I'm going to be honest with you. This is the gymnast who grabs the bar, swings around it 5 or 6 times, flings off to stick the landing, and then lands on their neck. That's not a great way to finish it off. He might be paralyzed. We don't know. And never mind. He sat up pretty quickly, but I think that he's just got a concussion. It's tough. He'll be waddling around for a while, but the moment that he gets his towel, the moment that he steps aside, he clears his head, he's gonna feel all right. I promise you. And he might even be back by 2028. We don't know. But okay, so after the 2 terms with Tim Walz, both major parties are now charting new directions to lead the state. And on the Democratic side, U.S. Senator Amy Klobuchar is essentially the designated figure. She is the party's presumptive nominee. She is seeking to transition from Capitol Hill to the state capitol. She obviously was the senator. Klobuchar has campaigned on her deep legislative record. As she was like, I've been on SNL. What more do you need from me? Rachel Dratch, is that her name? She played me. Nobody knows her name, but everybody knows Debbie Downer. Debbie Downer played me. Guys, this is the most recognition that the state of Minnesota has gotten on that program in years. And let's be honest, across the world, at least since 1996, nobody's cared about us. Nobody liked the TV show Fargo as much as they like the movie, let's be honest. So, broad statewide appeal is also what she's saying that she has, pledging to leverage her federal experience to bolster local economies. She's going to strengthen the state oversight in order to avoid fraud like we've had over the last few years, and also support agricultural industry sectors across Minnesota. Meanwhile, a crowded 7-candidate Republican primary is it's pretty tough for a lot of people. The GOP field is led by 3 key frontrunners, the Speaker Lisa Dameth, Demuth, House Speaker, we should make it clear, MyPillow CEO, Chief Executive Officer Mike Lindell, and Healthcare Executive Kendall Qualls. I don't think he's got it. I think it's either the woman or Mike Lindell, let's be honest. We need a GOP Kamala Harris one day, and she could be a solid one. She's pretty, she's decently young. Lisa Demuth age. Come on, give me it real quick. She is only 59 years old. You know what I mean? That she could be a Kamala type. The candidates have also offered like really different visions for the party's future. They're debating aggressive tax cuts, regulatory rollbacks, strict government spending limits to win over primary voters, and the primary winner will immediately step into the general election campaign heading towards November. The governor's mansion is on the line. The national political observers are watching Minnesota closely as a key Midwest indicator for the voter enthusiasm and party alignment ahead of the fall elections, because they see us as very representative. They see us as, you know what I mean, a place where things are happening. Ever since George Floyd, had his whole situation, and you know what I mean, he had a bit of a River Phoenix moment. Let's just call it that. It was a moment outside the Viper, except it wasn't the Viper. It wasn't a cool nightclub on Sunset in Hollywood. It was unfortunately just this poor gas station that has since been, not the gas station, that was across the street, but this poor little food stand, not really a food stand. It's kind of a general market. I know I bought like a dildo bong there, so I have a pretty decent, there's a scale to the things that they sell there. I've seen it with my own eyes. It's pretty impressive stock. But in general, it's not the same type of situation, but it definitely is one to win over the attention of a lot of people. The nation is kind of watching us ever since then.
Tomorrow, voters will head to the polls for primary day with key races for U.S. Senate and governor on the ballot. Political reporter Danny Spiewak here to tell us about that governor's race right now. Hi, Danny.
Hey, Reno, on the DFL side, there's very little suspense, obviously. We know that Senator Amy Klobuchar is going to be the nominee in November after she stepped up to run in Governor Walz's place. But it's a Republican side that we're watching on Tuesday. It's really interesting. The three main candidates running for the right to oppose Klobuchar are House Speaker Lisa Demuth, businessman Kendall Qualls, and MyPillow founder Mike Lindell. This is truly a fascinating race that has taken some twists and turns in recent months. Demuth's the one that leads in fundraising and has the most political experience. Qualls has the state party's endorsement, and Lindell has President Trump's endorsement. We've had a chance to talk with all of them in recent months about why they think they should win the nomination.
What we want to bring to Minnesota is just making it stronger, better, that comeback that is so desperately needed, reducing taxes, ending fraud once and for all.
To help clean up St. Paul. That's number one. Clean up the fraud, clean up the mess. The taxes are out of control. But how do we get back to making sure that the state thrives economically?
Tens of thousands of people, it's like 60,000 more people have left Minnesota than have come back in the last 4 years. We've got to change that. People can't afford to live here anymore.
What I like about Mike Lindell, what I like about him, and I know many people might not consider this to be a positive, I do because I'm open-minded. He always sounds like he's out of breath. Why do I like this? Because it communicates this old man, this old grandpa energy. You kind of want to trust him with your life.
We're going to have much more on the governor's race coming up tonight at 6. And at 5, we'll dive into the DFL Senate race between Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan and Congresswoman Angie Craig.
I cannot wait. I will actually update, you know how YouTube does posts or whatever? I'll post about whoever we actually end up seeing win. It's going to be curious. I'm going to keep an eye on the election results tonight. It's kind of like a football game for me. I'm very excited. I'm going to have, whatever it is what do people eat? I'm going to have like kettle chips. That sounds great. And then I'll watch the election results pour in. Let's hear a little teensy bit more about these before we head out.
Good morning, guys. And it has been pretty busy. We've seen a pretty steady stream of voters out here this morning. And even though the polls have only been open for just about an hour, Minnesota has actually already set a new record for voter turnout.
Nice.
The Secretary of State says that, about 200,000 ballots have already been returned in early voting. That is the most for a non-presidential election year. And today, federal election officials were told from the Department of Justice will be outside some polling places in both Hennepin and Ramsey counties, not inside. That process, by the way, they say not uncommon, and it was done during the Michigan primary just last week. But today, staff from the Minnesota Attorney General's office says that they'll be watching the observers to make sure they follow the rules.
This is something that's been done for multiple election cycles under multiple presidential administrations for a very narrow purpose to enforce provisions of the Voting Rights Act. So we feel good that this will be uneventful and that our polling places will, as always, be an island of calm. That is our goal.
Now, there will be 7 teams, we're told, of DOJ observers in Minnesota today. Those federal monitors, by the way, expected to be in plain clothes. They may try to interview voters about their voting experience after they have left those polling places. But, of course, they must stay at least 100 feet away. Polls, by the way, have been open since 7 a.m. They stay open till 8 o'clock tonight. Minnesota is an open primary state, so voters do not have to declare a party. But this is important. You can only vote for candidates within a single party, Republican or Democrat or Independent. Otherwise, your votes will not count. This morning, voters tell me they wanted to make sure that they had a say in some of the most closely watched primaries and statewide races, including the Democratic race for U.S. Senate and who will advance to be the Republican candidate for governor.
I just think with everything that's going on, I want to use my vote as much as I possibly can. So I'm not even sure if I voted in a primary before. So this, I think, is my first one. Just wanted to make sure I get it in, and it's usually really fast here. So,
well, I think just all of the races really. It's obviously we have been a hot topic in the national news, especially around our elections.
Have we?
So it's just really important for me to make sure that my voice was heard. So I would encourage everybody else to make sure too, because we have some tight races going on in our state, and every vote counts.
I can't wait to see how it turns out, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to keep an eye on it for you because we honestly have nothing better to do. There is Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan. Everybody's kind of forgetting a teensy bit about her. She is running for the Senate. She is a Senate candidate. She wanted to step away from the governorship because maybe people would have a bad taste in her mouth, especially due to her association with Governor Walz. And moderate candidate Angie Craig is also facing off against her currently right now. They want the same position, which is the Senate candidate for Minnesota, and I have no idea as to which one is going to receive it. I think that her interview skills are minimal. I think, and this is, I think that she has an image problem in general. I think the goofy big glasses are very cartoony. I think that her, excessive jewelry, much like the ones that she often wears from her ears, like these big ass like plus sign ones that she's wearing in this interview.
So much for being here, Lieutenant Governor. It's just one day until Election Day. What is your closing message to voters heading into the polls tomorrow?
What is it?
So this entire campaign has been about the many versus the money. I am part of the many, and I'm betting on us. I haven't taken a dime of corporate PAC money, and the same can't be said for my opponent. This is the most expensive Senate primary in Minnesota history. About $20 million has come in against us so far.
All right, so also this is a thing that's also happening right here. Unfortunately, the mainstream and the higher powers that be, the ones that want to move power with their money, they will also occasionally, and this is kind of a psyop, this is a kind of a thing to play into, like, oh, we're gonna magic trick you. If they really want Peggy Flanagan to win, if they know that this woman, she was already a servant to Tim Walz's administration, she's likely to go along with the deep state and their plans. She's likely to, sign off on anything that's major, anything that kind of can either, she can write off excuses very well. She's a mouthpiece. You know what I mean? She's a shill. She's a spook. Unfortunately, she's a commoner. She's very, very experienced. But what does that mean? Also very, very compromised. Angie Craig, not to say that she's any different, but they know that she is deeply unpopular. They know that the Israel thing is very unpopular. They need to sever the ties that Americans have with Israel because the Americans need to largely be on the side of the Christians. That's going to cause, civil wars. That's going to, they want race war. They want race war based on your religion. That is the plan for World War III eventually. But listen, Angie Craig is that candidate where they need to make it appear as though Americans are rejecting Israel, which at large they are. But unfortunately, some people take it to the extent of true hatred of like people that are Jewish. Some people take it to the idea of like Judaism, being the thing that condemns people to death. I'm one to believe that they can be salvaged. I'm one to believe that Christians can prevent themselves from falling down these rabbit holes. I'm one to believe that anybody can be rehabilitated of their mind. I'm one to believe that religion isn't great for society at large. I'm not one to be on the side of any of them because I know ultimately each of them do lead up to the same thing, which is a global network of pedophilia. Unfortunately, that's not something that we all want to be real. It's not a reality we all wanted to call home, but it's something we all wake up and live in every single day. Angie Craig, her loss will be symbolic, yes, of like the Americans rejecting the Israeli caucus and the Israeli side of things, but this is also going to service their future. This is unfortunately also playing right into the hand of the idea being we're going to make it appear as though Americans are rejecting Israel at large. Unfortunately, that's not the case for a lot of people. Some of them are still fundamentalist Christians who believe that Israel, it comes to them in their dreams. And we're having this, backwards swing where, unfortunately, in rejection of people's ties to Judaism, which is maybe founded in a good thing. I don't believe that Judaism is anything to idolize. I also believe it's something to be rejected and kind of destroyed from the world. I believe that I believe it on the same level as Scientology, Islam, and Christianity. But the Peggy Flanagan, she is not a opposition of the money. She says this is about the many versus the money. This is about choosing the least bad out of, honestly, it boils back to the idea that American elections are always choosing the least, worst of two options. God, I'm awful with my words today, but that's perfectly fine. You know exactly what I'm trying to say. Peggy Flanagan she is the least compromised, or at least for our American interests. She is, not taking money from Israel, but she's taking money from the people that she goes to rituals with. She's taking money from the people that she goes to these high-profile events with. She's just as compromised as this Angie Craig figure, but she's tied in more so to the American branch. Angie Craig more so to the Israeli branch. So, in other words, no matter who you're voting for in this case, you are voting for a deep state candidate who's going to service their image more so than they're going to service the wants and needs of Minnesotans.
I can tell you is that I'm running to make sure that people can afford the lives they want to live. I want to get big money out of our politics, and I want to fight for, things like Medicare for all, so that people aren't just paying for health insurance, but actually have access to health care.
You talk about this race being about money. The Congresswoman's campaign has spent significantly more money than your own, and you've suggested that she's bought and paid for by special interests. Do you think that kind of attack, though, makes it harder to unify Democrats, even if you win, especially those who hold similar positions than the Congresswoman?
Well, I would say this. I think this is something that you're seeing all across the country, that, individuals know that corporate PACs, special interests, have tremendous influence in our politics. And I think, they've got great representation. It's the rest of us who need it. I think that's the root of so many things that we're facing in this country. Health insurance companies are funding my opponent, and I support Medicare for all, and she doesn't. The crypto industry has weighed in this race.
But that's the thing, is you're also pitching an idea that will never work. Both of you are pitching bad ideas.
We need to have some pretty serious regulations on crypto, and Congresswoman Craig was the only Minnesota Democrat to vote for the crypto bill that has allowed Donald Trump to enrich himself, to over...
Because Angie Craig is also compromised. Yes, agreed, but so are you, unfortunately.
$1 billion in his meme coin from the Oval Office.
Agreed.
So I just think that people are ready, to be beholden only to the voters and no one else. And the best way to end Citizens United is to ensure that we are running strong grassroots, people-powered campaigns and winning. That's what we've done, and that's what I hope to do tomorrow.
Well, I hope it goes well for you, Miss Flanagan. I don't know whether or not it will, but only time will tell. Folks, let's move on to our next story, because not everything needs to revolve around Minnesota. I mean, maybe this will. It depends on whether or not the wildfires have hit here yet. Fire crews across the country are facing intense fights against nature, with nearly 100 uncontained wildfires, major ones, currently burning across the United States. It's driven by record heat waves and low humidity. The National Interagency Fire Center reports that close to 30,000 wildland firefighters have been deployed as blazes are scorching millions of acres nationwide. That's, maybe it's a cleansing? I don't know. I'm not trying to make something great out of something bad. I'm trying to make something tolerable out of something bad. I'm saying, like, maybe this will be good for the earth in the sense where it's like now all that the new shit can grow. The epicenter of the crisis remains centered in the Pacific Northwest, with roughly half of all active large blazes concentrated on the Oregon and Washington states alone. Extreme fire behavior has triggered urgent evacuation orders, road closures, and heavy structural damage across multiple communities, while dry lightning and gusty winds continue to ignite fresh fires, starting faster than ground crews are able to establish containment lines. And the emergency response teams are operating at National Preparedness Level 5, the highest alert scale in the federal fire management system. It's reflecting a lot of severe strain on the available national firefighting resources. Public safety officials are urging residents in high-risk western regions mainly. If you're in the eastern United States, you're going to probably be fine. They're saying to monitor local alert systems closely, clear defensible spaces around homes, and adhere strictly to local burning bans, as dangerous weather is going to continue to persist, at least to the end of the summer.
Wildfires burning out of control in the west. Firefighters working to contain nearly 100 large fires nationwide. In Utah, hundreds of thousands of acres scorched. 2 pilots were killed fighting a 174-square-mile wildfire still burning. The helicopter, flying in an area of steep terrain, crashed, igniting another fire.
Jeez.
Unfortunately, the fire does not stop to let our boots on.
Can you imagine going out to fight a fire and then you start another fire? That's just silly, man.
Comrades. So it's very heavy out there.
People in southern Oregon forced to evacuate as the Wright Spring fire grows in size. A contractor died while helping firefighters, the flames cutting him off from his escape route. Along the California-Nevada border, the so-called bug fire threatening homes near Reno. Across the region, extremely hot and dry conditions fueling the flames and straining firefighting resources. Officials forced to redeploy crews and shift equipment to the most dangerous areas. And north of the border...
Don't you love when they start to dump that, like, Agent Orange stuff all over the place, that, like, from the planes? At least that kind of looks cool.
Canada battling its own fire crisis.
This fire's getting a lot closer.
More than 20,000 people ordered to flee their communities in British Columbia, now under a state of emergency.
Playing with the dog and noticed a big puff of smoke, and we started seeing all the soot come.
In Summerland, homes destroyed, flames jumping across this highway. Drivers blinded by orange smoke.
Well, that looks really tough. Apparently, it's also touching a little bit of Canada, but they're not my country that I live in, unfortunately, so they're not going to get as detailed. I'm sorry, that's just something that we can't avoid, unfortunately. I'm not Mr. Worldwide. I've never been to Canada, having lived near it for so long, unfortunately. That's just something to say. I wish that I have at this point, but maybe one day I'll bother to go up north. I mean, I've been like within miles of the Canada border, so I can definitely say that. And I've also talked to a few Canadians. I've got a feel for them. They're not going to mind. They'll forgive me for forgetting about them. I'm sorry. It's just going to happen some days because I get tired. According to the new U-Haul reports, millennials are flocking to the Midwest, with Minnesota among the most desired states. Now, with this headline, we are obviously transitioning into the rapid-fire section of today's headlines. There's a lot of things you need to know about in order to keep your media diet healthy. And this is a disaster. This is a tragedy, a travesty. This is every TR word that means something bad. I'm just going to be honest with you. U-Haul data, maybe some people are helping their friends move. I don't know. But, like, I'm just going to be so low-key. It's not the spot. I understand that it's like, we can go there and maybe we'll be able to record some police brutality and go viral. Maybe we'll be able to expose some fraud or something. Because Minnesota is hopping, unfortunately. I'm not saying it's hopping in a good way. It's hopping in a South Central LA in the 1990s sort of a way, where it's like I wouldn't go there with my family. I wouldn't establish roots there, but maybe I'll drive through for fun. That's the entire state of Minnesota right now, unfortunately. But according to U-Haul, because apparently they're a good source on this, many people want to call Minnesota home right now because it seems like a great time.
Data shows a growing number of millennials are moving to the Midwest. Where are Americans moving? It depends on the generation. According to a U-Haul report, baby boomers and Gen X are flocking to the Southeast, like the Carolinas and Florida, while younger generations are split.
For millennials, Minnesota ranks 7th, and Wisconsin ranks 8th amongst the states gaining the most movers.
Get out.
Gen Z appears to be heading to bigger markets, with Texas, California, and New York topping the list. New data
Get
shows
out, though. I'm just going to be honest with you. No one wants you here, unfortunately. I'm speaking for all of us because I know many of us. We're not nice, and we're too nice to say it. We're passive aggressive, but we're not going to ever make it clear that we want you to leave. You're not welcome unless you bring something significant, unless you bring something fun. You know what I mean? If you bring a fun accent, maybe you can stay. If you bring a fun food, maybe you can stay. If you bring something fun, you know what I mean? You have to be one of those out-of-towners, and you can never try to copy our accent. You can never try to blend it in. You can never try to pretend that you're one of us, but you can make yourself a member of the community, but it's going to be very obvious that you're not from here. I'm just going to be honest with you. You won't have it. You won't be able to mingle at the fish fry like everybody else. You won't be able to keep it quiet but also loud at the same time like we do. It's just not going to work. I'm sorry. Speaking of the Midwest, Fargo murder suspect Levi Larte, Larteh, very cool last name, I guess. He's facing a new felony charge after police say that he attacked a Cass County jail deputy with a tablet, threatening to make the deputy his next body. The officer required 8 stitches. Jeez. I mean, Fargo PD, I give them a hard time because, unfortunately for them, they have an attitude problem. They don't treat their civilians very well, and they are ruthless in many ways. Unfortunately, they will Rodney King you if you, this is obviously a satire, we're having fun, but they will Rodney King you for nothing. It's very fun. Outside of the gas station, they don't do it to the panhandlers or the homeless people for some reason, but they do it to the law-abiding citizens, ladies and gentlemen. You know what I mean? It's being low-key. The Fargo PD, they're fun, they're jokey, they're low-key. I'm having fun. They should bring back Officer Twink on their Instagram. Let's hear a teensy bit more about this murderer.
A Fargo man facing a
alleged murderer
charge has been hit with a new felony after police say he assaulted a jail deputy with a tablet, sending him to the hospital for stitches.
Yikes.
And this is a quote here from the court documents, threatening to make him his next body. For your Valley News Now digital update, I'm Devin Fry. Levi Larda, 26 years old, is now charged in Cass County District Court with Class B felony aggravated assault with a dangerous weapon against a peace officer following an incident on August 9th. According to the report, a Cass County jail deputy was conducting a medication pass when Larda threatened him, saying, quote, "Don't play with my health or else you'll be my next body."
Whoa.
Investigators say Larda then swung a tablet, striking the deputy in the face.
Oh.
The deputy suffered 2 open wounds above his eye, experienced temporary vision issues, and required 8 stitches at the hospital.
God damn.
Larda is currently awaiting trial after pleading it not guilty to a Class AA felony murder charge in connection with the...
Dude, this young black male misunderstood is only 5'6". That's embarrassing.
October 2025 death of Nadine Curry in Fargo. For your Valley News Now digital update, I'm Devin Fry.
Thank you, Devin Fry. We really appreciate it. Best of luck to him. I don't know what else to say about that situation. I hope that he has himself a good, county provided attorney. Former dictator Bashar al-Assad has been sentenced to death by Syrian court. He is accused of committing war crimes and crimes against humanity, not cards, during Syria's 14-year conflict that killed 500,000 people. Assad is no longer in Syria after fleeing to Moscow with his family when his regime was overthrown nearly 2 years ago. Good times ended the Assad's nearly 50 years of Syrian rule. Very, very cool.
Syria's former dictator Bashar al-Assad has been sentenced to death by a Syrian court. He's accused of committing war crimes and crimes against humanity during Syria's 14-year conflict that killed 500,000 people. Assad is no longer in Syria after fleeing to Moscow with his family when his regime was overthrown nearly 2 years ago, ending the Assad's nearly 50 years of Syrian rule. Syria's new rulers have asked Russia to hand the Assads back.
The whole family? Are they going to do it old school and kill the entire family? That's a bit much, but maybe just Assad, you know what I mean? But also, technically, he made it. He made it over the border. He he made it past the buzzer. Is that the term they use in basketball? You know, he made it at the just by a hair. So I don't know if you can exactly, you can charge him. I don't know if you'll ever be able to get justice. I don't know if you'll ever be able to execute him on state television. But that's up to you. That's up to your spies to figure out in Moscow. You know what I mean? I think that's where he is, ladies and gentlemen. Primetime, this movie coming out from A24. Robert Pattinson, his accent is overhyped in a lot of these comments. A lot of people are saying he sounds just like him. He's in a flow state. Oh my god. Oh my fucking god. When he says, you see how this looks, right? It sounds just like him. They're over exaggerating, and to prove it, I'm gonna play clips from this this trailer that dropped. I'll put it in the description if you want to watch it yourself, because from the look of this film, it's going to have this sort of like, we're gonna take a complex look at To Catch a Predator. Not only are we gonna take a look at the story of how it, like, maybe, like, we're gonna be a little loose on the details, but we'll be as accurate as is to be expected of like a biopic. You know what I mean? Where it's gonna play with the details a teensy bit, and we're gonna make it seem as though Chris Hansen was this type of guy sitting in his dressing room shirtless, all sweaty, kind of looking like the Joker in 2019 when he was putting on his face makeup. He was looking. He was plotting to make the best television possible, and a lot of this is not out of his want for justice. It's out of his want for celebridom, and it takes a very critical lens at him. Not that there's anything. I'm not one to say that Chris Hansen is immune from criticism. There's definitely a lot to say about how he screwed up. Let's put it that way. The Onision situation, where he could have apparently went to federal prison, but according to the little fumbles that the Chris Hansen situation threw into it, that was not able to happen. And now Chris Hansen, he's up to his usual things. He's on his True Blue network, which is legit. He it's fun, honestly. I love the one where the guy starts slapping himself and slams his head into the counter. All of those are really fun and good. But Chris Hansen, there's definitely things to criticize him over. In the first few investigations, they had no ties to law enforcement, so these men got away having known how to avoid what happened at this occasion next time. Maybe they're not going to meet the girl at the house. They're going to meet her at a McDonald's or something. That's they've learned, unfortunately, from his show. It's acted as prevention for a degree of men, I'm assuming, but largely there are things to criticize the platform for. I believe it to be, while sensationalized and while, exaggerated for television, I believe it to be an inherent good. I'm one to believe that shame is a great teacher, especially it's one that's not unfamiliar to our society. We are a species that loves to throw stones, especially at those who have sinned. In all honesty, where does that come from other than like a deeply human nature, where it's like, that person has so deeply sickened me, throw a stone at their head. And that, To Catch a Predator, we had that in modern form, where these people, their lives were ruined. We saw them at their darkest moments. We had a television camera smashed into their face, sometimes when they were nude sitting on a chair. And it was just like these dark moments for a lot of these men, and deservedly so. It was cathartic. I would say that To Catch a Predator is the closest thing. I understand that the Roman Colosseum, it wasn't nearly as brutal as many people would love to paint it as, but definitely it was a degree of like relief for the citizens of Rome. They enjoyed the power of it. They enjoyed the grandeur, the performance. And we had our bloodlust satiated when we saw these men have their lives taken down. Some of these men were religious leaders. They were army. They were, servants to their community, police officers, teachers, everybody of any color, any skin, any creed, whatever. Not a woman, though. Let's be clear. Women don't tend to be the types that are meeting people over the internet. They're the ones that are going to be your teacher and sexually assaulting you. Let's be clear. They're going to be the Haley Becks of the world. And let's just be, allegedly. She hasn't been to court for it, but let's be honest. We've all seen the text messages. We can make our minds up for ourselves. Folks, I want to play this trailer because I understand the image that they're going to take with this movie. I understand it because I've already seen the trailer and I already know exactly what they're going to try to paint it as. They're going to try to go that Chris Hansen's mind was definitely not in the right angle for this. He was trying to glorify it. He was trying to make it as visionary and as much of a spectacle as he could for the sake of television. And I agree with that. I agree that some of this definitely could have been for his ego. Some of this definitely could have been for him to get famous. When he's like, when people think of catching predators, they think of my name first, and that's awesome. And I think that that's exactly what might go through his head. I don't know him personally. I'm not well informed about him enough to where I could make that decision. And I've never had a conversation with him. I've never been able to make my own in-person interpretations of him. That being said, I am fine with the idea that some of these people that are more, they're aligned with their self-interests. He wanted to build a brand off of this. He wanted to build a platform where he could charge people $4.99 I think it's $49.99 for a year subscription to True Blue. But he wants these people. It's True Blue. It sounds like a boner pill, but it's in reality it's his platform where he catches these guys who take boner pills before they go to meet 14-year-olds. And what he does on this is inherently what I believe to be a good thing for society. I believe it to be servicing the public. I believe it to be servicing our bloodlust. I love so much when they have the decoy walk out of the room or go like, I'll be right back, and then they watch Chris Hansen with a bit of, let's be honest, he's got to work out a little bit. He always walks in and he's got like his gut walking in first, and he's got like the papers on his chest, and he's sitting there and he's going like, why don't you just sit over there? Why don't you just sit over there and whatnot? But wear the suits again, because the suits hide a lot of that old man, body that you start to develop. Not to say that Chris Hansen's like, not a silver fox. He still looks good, but he needs to like work on the weight a little bit. Unfortunately, he's been having too much of Sokol's pizza. Not to say that like, anything about his weight. He just needs to taper. He was slim back in the days. You guys remember the first few editions of To Catch a Predator? He was like tight. He looked good. But anyways, Robert Pattinson is a good physical matchup for him, but the face is just not right, unfortunately, and the accent is even worse. You need to have his very Chicago kind of style, his accent that he has, even though he grew up in Lansing, Michigan, you know what I mean? But he has that very nasal quality. He always has a bit of a presenter dialect. I understand that he might put it on a bit for the camera, but, this accent work that he's doing, even when he's playing in front of the camera, when he's catching the pedophile in the beginning of the trailer, it just doesn't sound like Chris Hansen to me. A24, shots of the house. Then like this Mexican guy walks in.
Are you sure your parents aren't home?
I'm sure.
Big night planned. Who are you? You should have a seat right there. I'm Chris Hansen with Dateline NBC, and we're doing a story on adults who try to meet teens online. You see how this looks, right?
It's decent. It's decent. It's not top 10.
I don't really like your show, but America loves it. So I need to move you to Catch a Predator, 9 p.m. Primetime. Gonna be bigger than Lost.
Primetime. Gonna be bigger than Lost.
My name is Dan Plum. Do you know what you're auditioning for?
So you were playing a 13-year-old?
So they got this guy playing a 19-year-old playing a 13-year-old.
Man, they're gonna love this.
That's the guy from Santa Clarita Diet.
The recognition it deserves. I want something that matters. No more bottom feeders. I want a way up. Don't you ever just want to bleed them? Maybe what I do is a little worse.
It's better.
This could be our greatest segment yet. We're going to him. He'll do that. They come to us.
I don't understand what I'm doing here. What you're doing is more than acting. You're cleansing the world of an ancient evil. Let's catch us a predator. Who gave you permission to do this?
You have no plan.
I have to put him on television. You're going to be so proud of me. I don't want to be a bad person. Your definition of bad and my definition of bad are vastly different.
It seems like overacting.
What would have happened if I wasn't here?
It seems like overacting, but it seems fine. September 25th. I might not see it in theaters. I'm gonna be honest with you, but I'll see it on streaming services because I'm half sold on it. I'm half sold on a critical lens on Chris Hansen. I believe that it's an important vision to take. I think that it's a cool vision to take. I appreciate the idea that they're not just making a basic ego stroking biopic, much like Rocket Man was or anything like that. Which is let's be honest. Freddie Mercury wasn't alive to consult on Bohemian Rhapsody, but if he was, it might have been an ego-stroking project, much like Rocket Man was for Elton John. It was like this thing where, we're going to show a bit of my bad sides, a bit of my selfishness, but we're also going to show overwhelming amounts of how it's like my dad that was the cause of my problems, and I did a lot of drugs, and I had sex with a lot of men, and that was the majority of what I did throughout my life. That was all of Rocket Man. And then it was but actually he's happy now. And he stands next to a bunch of Gucci boxes, and it's broke bitches. Now you just spent $20 on my movie, and it's 2019, so you're actually spending $18 per ticket or whatever. You got the magic seat prices, bitch. Me, I'm sitting here with all my Gucci, and I got my new sunglasses in every picture. I got my gay husband and our kids that are gonna be 10 when I'm 70 something. You know what I mean? I'm living a true Mick Jagger style rock star lifestyle, and good for Rocket Man. And I think it's gonna be a long, long time. I love that song. It's really great. It's not even his best one, but it's you know what I mean? There's I'm not gonna go through an Elton John list right now. We can talk about it later, but Americans are growing weary of food products amid multiple outbreaks, and that's what our last and final story is gonna be about. Folks, I hope that you've enjoyed today so far. I have had a great time with it. But maybe if you're an American, you're not having a great time at the grocery store because we're experiencing a growing sense of recall fatigue as a steady drumbeat. You know what I mean? Week after week. Foodborne illness, outbreak, product warning. All of this is undermining trust in the nation's grocery aisles. Over recent months, there is a lot of recalls spanning everything from fresh produce, meats, dairy products, infant formula. Shoppers are weary of any sort of routine market run. They're like, God damn, if I get the wrong milk, I'm gonna kill my whole family. Health officials report that widespread bacteria threats, including Listeria, Salmonella, and Cyclospora, have forced thousands of product pulls nationwide. Don't go meal planning. Don't try to do any of that sort of junk because you might buy the food, you might lose track of when you bought it, you might cook it, and you might be sitting in your fridge, and the bacteria's had time to grow. It's disgusting. And these contamination events, more honestly, because it's their entire stock. It's widespread. It's bringing up concerns about food safety oversight and supply chain integrity. Recent national polling indicates more than 55% of Americans now express little to no confidence in the government's ability to keep the food supply safe. That's not a great poll to have on your populace. This is a record low trust levels. Public health advocates are pointing to a combination of aging regulatory infrastructure, lingering federal budget cuts, and complex global supply networks as key factors slowing down the outbreak detection and containment efforts. So economic and behavioral fallout from these safety scares are already taking a toll on consumer habits and local grocers. Industry data is showing a measurable drop in sales for fresh produce, like leafy greens and pre-packaged salads, which you shouldn't be eating in the first place. Cut your own goddamn salad, you lazy son of a bitch. As shoppers are altering their diets to avoid an entire categories out of fear of the illness, regulatory agencies like the FDA, USDA are working to upgrade testing technology and streamlining inspection protocols. Grocery chains and food producers are facing a long road toward restoring public trust in everyday food staples. Obviously, I'm against anybody who was getting the pre-chopped lettuce in the first place. It's lazy.
This morning, Americans are growing weary of the rising number of recalls related to those stomach-churning Cyclospora and Salmonella outbreaks.
I don't buy any bagged lettuce, things like that.
Grocery shoppers forced to exercise more caution when buying fruit, vegetables, and now some meats. Taylor Fresh Foods, the U.S. commercial distributor initially linked by the USDA with the cyclospora outbreak in lettuce, now issuing a voluntary recall for finished products containing jalapenos, including dips, salsa, and guacamole. The peppers, traced to growers in Mexico, have been distributed to major grocery stores in at least 26 states. Additionally, the USDA's Food Safety and Inspection Service issued a public health alert for nearly 20 meat and poultry products containing jalapenos potentially contaminated with salmonella. To date, Taylor Fresh Foods says it is not aware of any reported illnesses linked to its products containing jalapenos.
You sure?
Foodborne illness is nothing new. The CDC estimating that each year 48 million people, or 1 out of every 7 people, get sick from tainted food, including nearly 3,000 fatalities. Now, on the heels of this latest recall, government officials announcing Monday plans to institute new guidelines concerning ultra-processed foods and food additives.
All right.
The FDA does not even have a complete picture of what is entering the food supply, and neither, of course, do the American people.
Someone's got to stop fucking tickling him. Straight up. Let the man speak.
Biologist Don Schafter is not sure that'll help.
Providing adequate funding to FDA so they can do their jobs to try to keep our food supply safe. That's the way forward, not legislating about ultra-processed foods or food additives.
The multiple recalls hitting businesses hard. Taco Bell and Chipotle both saw a dip in sales
Fine institutions.
after pulling tainted lettuce and jalapenos from their menus. The popular salad chain Sweetgreen, which has not been linked to any outbreaks, says they expect sales to slump because customers are being extra cautious.
Of course they are. They're smart.
So there is a full list of recalled products on the FDA and CDC websites. The health agencies are specifically urging consumers to be on the lookout for those recalled products with that best if used by date up to and including August 16th.
All right, Steve, thank you. Al, you were saying there's been a real run at the farmers market.
That's right. I was up at the Hudson Farmers Market this weekend. And people lined up for that, the fresh produce, because you know the farmer, you know where it's coming from, and there you go.
Well, these local farmers markets are benefiting.
That's right. Bingo.
That's, I guess, silver lining, ladies and gentlemen, be a farmer eventually. Farming might be back. I think that we might be in like a medieval time again where it's going to be nice to have a little patio garden. It's going to be, if you're a broke bitch and you live in an apartment, it's the best you can get. But it's going to be nice to have gardens again. And I know that people are going to be like, my crop was wiped out by a storm or some shit every other week, but it's going to happen. And you know what happened when our ancestors had that happen? They didn't have any choice. They didn't get to go scroll on TikTok. They didn't get to go whine. They didn't get to go like, oh, whatever. I guess that, that didn't work out. My little hobby of growing food for myself didn't work out. They, if they couldn't do it, they would either have to find somebody who actually could provide them the food or they die. So, try to get that, spirit in your heart again. A pilgrim spirit, the person who's ready to take on the land, the person who's ready to dig at the soil with their fingers, the person who's ready to try their best to get this intimacy between this seed and Mother Earth happening, and try to get yourself some goddamn fresh tomatoes, because that is true freedom, ladies and gentlemen. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of tomatoes. That's what I have to say, ladies and gents. And I hope that you've had a wonderful time listening to these stories. I've had an even more wonderful time gathering them for you. If you'd like to be there for any of our future episodes, we're going to be uploading again tomorrow all the way through Friday. Like, subscribe, ring the bell for notifications, all that junk that they tell you to do. In the meantime, I have been Ollie Vogt Larson with your brain on air. Thank you all so very much for listening. I'll catch you all in the next upload. In the meantime, bye-bye.